Good evening to the student of the International Human Rights Law. Welcome to the class, and we are dealing the international relations versus human rights. The impact of the human rights international relations, and that is the thing. Please read what I posted on the screen so that I could know that you are with me and I am with you, and both are traveling in the same boat to reach to the destination. Read.
Okay, Prof. Human rights versus international politics. Prof, this is not visible. Here at the top, the first line.
Yes, we can't understand international politics today without taking into account human rights. Read.
Okay, we cannot understand. Yes, we cannot understand international politics today without taking into account human rights and the normative and the institutional structure that is developed around them. But human rights as norms and as institution are sought and designed to protect people, to safeguard their rights, mainly in the face of the power of the state, which, despite the passage of time, continues to repeatedly show its darker side. It tends to abuse, oppression, intolerance, and the preservation of inequality. State, on the other hand, remain the dominant actors in international relations and they tend to view intervention in the internal affair
With suspicion and to
with
watch
the
each other's
species and to
backs.
watch each other back.
So, without human rights, mute, mute. Without the human rights, and there is no international politics. And the international politics will come into that extent because of the globalization. And the people will migrate it and try to dominate in that country where they are going to establish their investment. And here they say, but human rights as norms as well as institutions are thought and designed to protect the people. Even a human rights UN organization or special agencies, they try to protect the people and safeguard their rights. And mainly in the face of the power of the state. When the powerful states are there, they try to dominate the other weak states, which despite the passage of time, continues to repeatedly show its dark side. But the most of the states which are powerful, they will show the dark side and they will be just ignoring the human rights norms. Its tendency to abuse, they try to abuse either as a state or executives or individuals and other actors and the oppressions and the intolerance and the preservation of the inequality. So equality should be preserved over there, but they are still continue to make inequality. States, on the other hand, remain the dominant actors. Yes, most of the states they try to abuse it because of their dominance and the international relations and tend to view the intervention in their internal affairs. They try to intervene the internal affairs of another country with the suspicion and to watch each other's back. They try to watch what other country is doing and how we can intervene in their activities. So that's why human rights versus international politics and international relations very good and have the good impact on it. So in my last class, I was dealing this point of view. Yes, this I was dealing. There is no such code of public international law. Do you have the public international law code like the Tanzania Penal Code? Unmute and give me the answer. Do you have public international law code like Tanzania Penal Code? Unmute and give me the answer. Masanja, Christian Masanja,
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
did you hear my question?
Yes. Pardon, please. Pardon.
Do you have a code of public international law? Do you have public international law code like the Tanzania Penal Code?
In the
See, 4 times I repeated. Do you have code of public
Prof, I can't
international
hear you.
law? Okay, better mute it. Mute. I will give the answer.
I don't know, Prof. I don't know.
Mute. Mute it, yes, because there is a disturbance from your side. So we don't have a public international code like the Tanzania Penal Code, and no hierarchy between the different sources, without written or unwritten. There is no written or unwritten code would be there in the public international law, and there is no hierarchy also there. It may be one consequence of the absence of well-established international legal order, even though the United Nations is ubiquitous in the world conflict. Public international, there is no code, there is no hierarchy, and it will not do anything, but still the United Nations is a ubiquitous. Do you know what is ubiquitous? Yes, I will show you what is ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means present everywhere. That is the meaning. And here, which I made it, and the pronunciation is ubiquitous, present, appearing, are found everywhere. His ubiquitous influence was felt by all the family members. Now also we felt the ubiquitous presence of the UNO in promoting and protecting the human rights. And that is the point which I want to share. Now let us go to again our study is concerned. Various sources of international law are mentioned in Article 38. I repeat, various sources of international law are mentioned in the Article 38 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice. The tribunal, whose mission is to resolve the disputes filed in accordance with the international law and applies international conventions, whether general or specific, who will apply International Court of Justice. And the state or individual will apply there, file a case over there because of the abuse of the human rights. And the rules expressly recognized by the disputing states, and they will see that what is the disputing states, whether they are the member of the UN or not. International customs as evidence of general practice. Not only the rules are framed by, even they incorporated the customs also in the international instruments. International customs as evidence in general practice accepted as a law, and general principle of law recognized by the civilized countries. The general principle will be everywhere the same, and all the civilized country will oblige it, subject to the provision of the Article 59, judicial decisions and doctrine of the most qualified public relations representative from the various countries. So there would be a customs, there will be international norms, and it will be followed by all the member states and subject to the provision of the Article 59, judicial decisions on the doctrine of the most qualified public relations. Whatever the judicial decisions will be given by the International Court of Justice, it should be followed, and it will be act like a precedence, and it has a tool to help that determine the rule of law. A rule of law still prevailing because of the International Court of Justice is there, which will not discriminate among the states if any abuse is there, and they will take an action against the state. The provision does not affect the court's right if the parties agree. If any provision would be there, it will not affect the court's right when the state parties agree to decide ex equo et bono. What is ex equo et bono? That means it is not through the provisions of the international instruments, but it can be deviate also, and to see a good justice would be given on the equity grounds without following the international charters norms. Now let us see what is equitas, and here what is ex equito et bono. It is a Latin terminology for I quote, according to the right and good, not according to the international norms, not according to the international laws, not according to the international charters articles, but according to the right and good. The term, also known as amiable compositior, refers to a tribunal's consideration of a dispute according to what is fair and just given the particular circumstances, rather than strictly according to the rule of law. Not strictly according to the rule of law, but what is the just at the time, at the situation, according to the right and the good and the consents of the parties. This type of consideration is primarily utilized in the international law, typically requires the consent of all the parties. When all the parties are agreed over there, they will keep aside the rule of law and they will follow the right and good, which is on the equity principles. For example, parties may agree to have their disputes resolved ex equito bono, but parties should have to give the consent for that regard, not following the rule of law, but according to the right and good, it can be decided. That is called ex equo et bono. Now let us go back to our study, and yes, here it is there. Yes, he has decided the ex equito bono. Next, international law differs from the national law. Yes, national law is the domestic law. It is enacted by the parliament, and the consent of the president would be there. But the international law, it refers because it is even a charter or the treaty where the state are the parties to it. In this way, international law differs from the national law in that there is no centralized structure responsible for enforcing its application. In the international, there is no centralized mechanism for the enforcement of the decisions. But in the municipal law, national law, there is an executive body, there is execution of machinery is there, and it will definitely act it, and the decisions should be followed. Or the court ruling, a court judgment will be followed in toto. The absence of the international police, because in the international law there is no international police, but in the national law there is a state police is there. In addition to that, even a defense also there. The absence of the international police has led some writers no doubt to doubt that international law is really illegal. Some doubt has come to the people, because generally we will say international law is a weak law. I repeat, international law is a weak law because there is no executive machinery would be there to take the legal sanctions, except it is diplomatic relations will be curtailed, no transportations, no visas, and the economic sanctions are there. If at all more sanctions would be there, the UN peacekeeping force will be there, and it will curb the the rebellious activity in that particular country where the human rights abuse continuously going on. However, there are several international courts of justice as well as the several ad hoc arbitration courts that apply the international law. In spite of that also, International Court of Justice will apply the international law charters, and the arbitration courts or tribunals also will follow the international law charters or the treaties or bilateral or multilateral. In the event of an international dispute, there are several methods of peaceful settlement of disputes. When there is an international dispute there are many modes, several methods of the peaceful settlement of disputes, either through the bilateral treaty or through the multilateral treaty or through the UN charters or going to the International Court of Justice. If it is a criminal matter is concerned, at the time International Criminal Court, which is there, the Hague, Netherlands. They can range from the negotiation. For the international disputes, one can go with the negotiation, one can go the reconciliation, mediation, arbitration, and refer to the matter to the ICJ. See, there are several modes are there. What are the several modes? Can anyone unmute and give me the answer so that I could know that you are with me and I am with you? What are the different methods to resolve the international disputes? It is there on the screen. Yes? Anyone can unmute and read or say, give the answer. There are several methods of peaceful settlement of dispute when there is an international dispute are there. What are the several methods to resolve the dispute, to settle the dispute peacefully? Participants,
Yes, Prof.
what is proof?
There
Give
are
me the
several.
answer.
There is the negotiation, mediation, arbitration. Yeah, there are three methods.
Or it can be referred to the ICJ.
Yes.
So the method of settlement can ultimately lead to the adoption of retaliatory measures by the state. Mute. Masanja, mute. The method of settlement can ultimately lead to the adoption of the retaliatory measure by state. And here the compromise could be made. Instead of taking the retaliation, they will make the compromise and reconciliation is there. And however, the right is not guaranteed. But here, the right is not guaranteed over there. Whether they follow it, they may not follow it. But if they agree together, yes, they definitely is a binding. And they will adapt it and they will follow it, they will apply it. In the event of a refusal to implement the ICJ decision, suppose that the state refused the decision of the judgment of the ICJ, for example, the aggrieved state must first refer the matter to the Security Council. Suppose in case it is aggrieved by the decision of the ICJ, then the aggrieved state, where they can refer the matter? Where they can refer the matter? If the state is aggrieved by the decision of the ICJ, where they can refer the matter means aggrieved state. Participants, they can refer the matter to the
They can refer
Security
the matter to the
Council.
Security Council.
Yes. Why you are taking time to give the reply? It is already there. Yes, after saying it, mute it. If once you said it, you can mute it. Masanja, mute. Okay. Once you said the answer, mute. Regarding the international criminal law, very different from the international law between the countries. The Rome Statute established the International Criminal Court for the crimes against humanity. So, International Criminal Court is formed because of the Rome Statute, and the headquarters is the Hague, Netherlands. It is clear that the retaliatory measures imposed by the strong state will be more effective than retaliation by the state with a weaker and political and economic interest. Naturally, a strong state will try to dominate a weaker state. And for that regard, International Criminal Court is there if any criminal activity is done by the state, which is more powerful to the state which is very weak, either in any aspect, either political or economical or interest. And so, in practice, only the strong states are actually able to enforce the conventions. But in the court also in the Tanzania, the court helps to only to the people, those who are the rich. Of course, rule of law is there. A rich or poor, there will not be any difference. But practice is different and theoretic is different. In practical, the court will give the more hands to the rich and the less hands to the support to the poor. In the same manner, the strong states will take the advantage of it. And therefore, the rule of law concept is not fully applicable in international relations. So, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is a strong become more strong and a weak become more weak, and there is no control over there. And that is the reason the rule of law of the concept is not fully applicable in international relations. In the international relations are there, the rule of law is not fully applicable. Of course, it's applicable, but not to the extent of 100%. Yes, anyone can unmute and read this one, 2.2. Anyone can unmute and read this 2.2 case, this paragraph. Other people
The
are
concept of
silent. I don't know
international
why.
relations.
This which I cursor I am showing.
International relations is also called international studies. In English, international studies, IS. The main topic of research are international law, international politics, international economics, and the history of international relations. Under the term, it is usually designated the study of foreign affairs and the main problem of the international system, the role of the state, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and multinational companies. International relations is included in the field of academia and politics. They can be studied either from the positivist perspective or from the normative perspective, both seeking to analyze and formulate international policies of the states.
Yes. International relations is also be known as or called as international studies. Within parenthesis, in English, international studies, that is IS, initialism. So, international studies, what do you study? The main topics of the research are international law, you study the international studies, international politics, you study, international economics, you will study, and the history of the international relations, you study. Means there are three ways we can study. Number one, politics. Number two, economics. Number three, history. That is in the international law, which is nothing but the international studies or international relations, we can say. Because international relations comes through the human rights only. So, under that term, it is usually designated the study of the foreign affairs. Actually, it is said to be as a study of the foreign affairs, how the foreign affairs would be there, how their activity would be there, and how their politics is there, how their history is there, how they are economically sound, and what are the relations with the other countries. So they read the state background in the foreign affairs. And the main problem of the international system, that is, they try to see the back of a state and what they are doing. The role of the state, international organizations, non-governmental organization, they will also see what the role of the state are doing in particular state and what is the international organizations are, how it can be controlling the human rights abuse, and non-governmental organizations within parentheses NGOs, even they also take an active part in the promotion and production of the human rights. And multinational companies, they are the corporate companies, they play a vital role and they are most violate the international norms because of their money power. International relations is included in the field of academia and politics. So international relations is the relation between relations of the different states regarding their economics, social condition, and the history, and will study it in international studies. And international studies is nothing but international relations. International relations is included in the field of academia and politics. Yes, it is one of the curriculum would be their international studies. They can be studied either from a positivist perspective, in the optimistic perspective, or in the normative way, a normative perspective, a normal theoretical perspective, both seeking to analyze and formulate the international policies of the state. Either you study in this way, that is the prospective way or positivist way, or you will study the normative perspective. In the both the cases, and we will analyze and formulate the international policies of the states. So that was the thing. Yes, another person could unmute and read this paragraph. If international relations has historically been where a cursor I am moving, another person and whose smartphone is good, having the good son, like Sakina.
If international relations has historically been included in the field of political science, then the field of economics is increasingly emphasized through the international political economy, which has developed rapidly since the 1970s. Other academic areas are also of concern. International law, philosophy, geography, especially through geopolitics, sociology, anthropology, cultural studies, political sciences. Regarding the more specific subject studied, it can be cited globalization, the state, ecology, and sustainable development, nuclear proliferation, nationalism, economic development, international finance, human rights, etc.
Yes. If international relations has historically been included, at that time, it will be in the field of political science, then the field of economics, and increasingly through the international political economy, which was developed rapidly in the 1970s. International political economy, both the way you can see politics as well as economy. In the academic areas are also concerned. There are the various subjects like international law and international philosophy and the geography, and especially through the geopolitics, means politics in particular geographical area, and the social studies, not social studies, the study of the society, the sociology, then how a man would be there earlier, anthropology, and the cultural studies, and as goes with the political science. These are all the background of the historical where we can study in the international relations. Regarding the more specific subject study, we can call it a globalization, liberalization, the state, ecology, and the sustainable development. What is meant by sustainable development? Anyone? Anyone? What is meant by sustainable development? Say, pass on. Say, pass on. Say, pass on.
Sustainable development means a progressive change in success.
Sustainable development means you have to use the natural resources, but see that the coming generation should also use it. It will not be depleted. It not be exhausted. Like we are using the now recycled paper. Again, we can use it for further generation. When you are making the industry, we are cutting the forest, but simultaneously we are planting the trees to raise it for the future development of the future country, future generations. So that is called sustainable development. And the nuclear proliferation, if you make the ammunition so much, it is for the destruction only. Instead of making so much ammunition, better you develop the peace among the nations in the world. Distribute the peace. That is the more important factor. And nationalism, of course, everybody having a proud of their own nation. But simultaneously, you should also equally regard other nation also. We should not say our nation is the best one and your nation is the very backward and marginalized. No. You have to give the equal regard to the nationalism. Economic development, yes, where there is industries are there, where the people become highly educated, they know how to develop the country, they know how to earn the money, and they can establish their own small scale industries, and they will increase the increase the GDP of the country. Economic development and international finance, how it is export and import, foreign revenue, foreign currency, and this international finance, including we can also study the human rights, how the human rights should be there to safeguarding the state for the human rights because of the globalization. The aim of international relations is to understand its different conceptual framework, in particular the analysis of globalization. So international relations will come because of the people will migrate to the other countries and having the relations in particular countries, and they try to study their economic and political and geographical development, and that is studied by one state to the another state will make it international studies or international relations because of the analysis of the globalization and the liberalization. According to J.F. Gilhodis, the term international appeared in the late 18th century in the English philosopher Jeremy Bentham. But the phenomena of international relations, namely between the relations of independent political communities, has been studied for much longer. This international word has come in the 18th century, and international philosophy, that English philosopher Jeremy Bentham, he made it. The phenomena of the international relations, namely between the relation independent political communities, have been studied for much longer. Not only the political communities, because of the international relations, a relation between the in technical relations in the other fields also there, so that there would be a strong band and there would be a good what I say export and import and an investment and making the employment of the country where the other country are investing. But simultaneously, there is the advantages and disadvantages also there because of the globalization what we studied earlier. International relations includes a larger number of the international institutions. Yes, in international institutions such as IMF, International Monetary Fund, WTO, World Trade Organization, World Bank, and they will supervise it and they will try to make the norms in the international relations. It is important to know and understand the function they perform in terms of the international security, economic and social development, human rights and humanitarian assistance. So when there is the international relations are there and the institutions like the IMF, WTO, World Bank, they will come to the rescue when there is a violation should be there and the international security would be maintained and the economic and development of the also be maintained and there will not be any human rights violations and the humanitarian assistance should be given by such an institutions. When it comes to the international relations, it is important to talk about the nations and nationalism. What is the nations and nationalism would like to make it out. Indeed, its main aim is to understand the problematic nation state and nationalist ideology. National state is the nation and a nationalist ideology by studying the main historical stages of its emergence and the theories that have been developed to analyze the phenomena. So the two concepts are there. Two. One is the nations and nationalism. So nationalism, it will give the more importance to their own nation, and the nations, it is having the relations with the other nations and try to maintain the nationality also. And nationalism will not be overruled if they have the good relations with the other countries. Because wherever you go, but still you love your country where you have born. Am I right? Am I right? Lex patriae. You show your nationalism over there. Even though you are staying in a good way, but still you remember the days where you have born and you will be proud of it. You are the nationalist of a particular country. So that with the idea here have been developed to analyze the phenomena. Traditionally, international relation is a set of links, what relationships and contacts that are union and subject to the foreign policy of the state. So each country having certain foreign policy and they try to make it out, maintain it and have the good relations with the other countries. Otherwise, country growth will not be come into the picture or in the world map when they did not have any international relations with the other country. And that is very much important factor for the growth of a country. The narrow definition starts from the idea that international relations is a relationship between the countries. That is the international relations. Today, the broader view takes into account that many processes are outside government control. So some of the processes are it is beyond the control of the government because corporate sector is dominating, even dictating the terms to the government officials. Such a domination should be there. Okay, now the time is still we do have at least 7 to 8 minutes with your hand, and let us see the relationship between the international law and international relations, how it can be there. Because it is intertwined, it is mixed together. One cannot separate or isolate with one another. So international law is a part of the law that regulates the activities of the international scale entities that have a relation with the international community. So international law is nothing but a part of law. What law? Which regulates the activities of the international scale entities. International scale entities means nothing but keeping the relations with the other country. In other words, international relations. So have a relation with the international community means other countries of the world. International law is the overall principles and principles governing the relations or issues that cross national borders between the countries and countries and with the other non-state legal subjects and non-state legal subject to each other. Even not only the state which are the member of the UNO, but even non-state members also, we try to have that developed the relations with them. So international law is a law and the part of it where the rules and regulations to maintain the relations between or among the states. That is the international studies or international relationship. And the people go, especially foreign minister or sometimes the president will go to the other country. They will make a memorandum of understanding to establish having the relations and investment and take the technology from that country to develop their own nations, and they will sign the agreement between the two countries, and this will show the relationship with the one other country to make the good relations. Then only the countries will develop it, and there would be a social security, peace, and economic development also there. International relations, which are relations between the countries, are basically legal relations. Of course, business relations are there, legal relations are there, even marital relations, the subjects of the different countries. Of course, a marriage is also legal bond, or a union, not a union, legal bond, and is sacrosanct also, which implies that international relations have created a interconnected rights. Yes, interwoven, interconnected, and obligation between the legal subjects, that is the states. There are norms are there are provisions are there are the rules are there when you want to make a relations with another country. In case of any disputes comes, even it will be clearly mentioned there, so and so court is having a jurisdiction to entertain such a case in case there is a breach of the contract. And which country law could be applied also, they will specifically mention. That's why you can say international relations, it goes with the legal subject. International relations are relations between the countries or between the individuals from the different countries, either with the country to country or individual to the country or country individual to the individual of the different countries, both in the form of political, cultural, and economic relations. In all aspects of it, international relations has the aim of enhancing the friendship and bilateral, regional, and multilateral cooperation through various forums in accordance with the national interests and capabilities. And we also formed the Tanzania here, 7 countries as a African, what is a East African community. Why such a thing? They unite together, they are cooperate together in all aspects, socio-economic, cultural aspect, even the trade, industry, business, in many other aspects also, they formed such a community. And there is a, like a European Union is there is the African Union also there. Where is the African Union headquarter? Where is the African Union headquarter? Mungunajua. Participants, there are 3 regional bodies are there in the world. One is American, another is European, another is African. And the African Union is headquarters is Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And the African court is where it is situated. In the Europe's court is there for the human rights violations. In American side, yes, there will be a court and they will deal the cases of the human rights violations. What about the Africa? Participants, Melala, still 5 minutes are there. Where is the African court for the?
Arusha.
It is there in Arusha.
Yes.
It is there in,
Arusha.
say loudly. Okay.
Arusha.
Now the question, in order to create the world peace, of course, where you studied here, yes. Both in the form of a political, cultural, and economic relations, we have to develop it. International relations have the aim of enhancing the friendship and bilateral, regional, multilateral cooperation through the various forms in accordance with the national interests and capabilities. In order to create the world peace that in eternal, just and prosperous, our country must continue to carry out a free and active foreign policy. Every country should have a foreign policy to make its growth, having a name and fame in the map of the world. So that was the thing, and we will make it from here tomorrow. We studied up to the free and active foreign policy should have to be made it over there, and hence we have to extend our products to export, and we can import the products from the other countries, and there would be a trade relation should be there, and the license should be given, and for the both the people, either for the investment or the culture or for the benefit of the state, and they would like to make it out. Yes, let them make it out. But the thing is, the corporate, especially corporate bodies, institution, they will eat the siagi, there is a cream, and they will give the buttermilk to the local people. Yes, there will be a control would be there. The cream should also be eaten by the local people, and the buttermilk also could be eaten by the local people, at least to the extent of the 40%, though not the 50%. So with this, at any time it will be closed. And today, many people are silent over there. I don't know what was the reason. A good participation makes the class lively. Otherwise, it will be a class to the wall if there is no response from the student side. So with these remarks, I would like to close it down. Let we meet on Friday at 5:10. Asante sana na shukuru sana. Mungu akubariki na kukulinda. Goodbye.
Ibariki